For the regular meeting scheduled for today, June 21st, 2012. Can you please read the public notice?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act and known the schedule of the Township Committee to the Express Times and North Star Ledger newspaper, posting a copy on the Township Bulletin Board and filing a copy with the Township Clerk.
Can you please join me in a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Perez.
Here.
Siegel. Here. Miliani. Here. Colari.
Here.
Toriello.
Present. Can I have a motion to open up for public comment for agenda items?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All
All in favor? Aye. Anyone wishing to make public comment, please come up to the microphone, state your name. Seeing no hands, oh, here we go.
Charles Slavic, 103 Bradford Lane. I'm new with it, I haven't been here for a while, but I'm surprised to see that there's a limit on what's to be said and when it's going to be said. I don't understand why that's in there.
That's actually not what we're doing. In the past, we only had one public comment period. Now we have two. So
There
we're
were
actually.
two.
What's that? No, there used to be only one. There's now two. And what we do is.
When are we talking about one?
What's that?
How long ago?
Effective January 1st or shortly thereafter, we started to have two.
No, you said there was never two. Elaine, was there always two? I mean, in the last few years?
Every two, but what happens is there's, the meetings go on and on, Charlie, and it's, that they're actually putting, it's allowed by.
Like I say, I wasn't prepared for
Right.
this, and I'm wondering why should a person wait to an end of a meeting to go to the other to make a comment? You should be welcoming comments because we never have a crowd here anyway, so I don't see the problem. And then limit it to a certain number of
You
minutes.
go ahead and make your comment, whatever you like.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We've,
But go ahead.
there's
Feel free to
always
say.
been two public comments, periods. And the first one was when most of the people would say something, would be the first one, because then they would leave. Because sometimes the meetings, like Elaine said, carried for a few hours.
Right. And
I don't see the purpose of this, really, because we should be welcoming comments from the public to hear what their problems are, what concerns they have, and we don't have enough people here to begin with to get that feedback to you at these meetings.
And we do welcome the comments, and you're right, the meetings have taken a long time, and what we were trying to do is to have a little bit more efficiency in addressing the agenda items, finishing up a little bit earlier, and then if anybody has anything for the good of the order to add or for us to consider for future meetings that we could put on the agenda or any other comments or concerns, but Charlie,
All right, I
feel free to.
I don't want to belabor the point.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Seeing no hands, is there a motion to close public comment?
Make the motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I have a motion to approve the monthly reports?
I'll make the motion.
And I should say for the monthly reports for court and police
And
to be.
police, yeah,
to be-
there's some missing?
Yes.
All in receipt.
Yeah. So actually, can I make just an amended motion to receive monthly reports for court and police?
I'll make that motion.
Roll call?
Any discussion? Perez.
Yes.
Siegel. Miliani.
Yes.
Colari.
Yes.
Toriello.
Yes. And now can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the May 17th regular and executive?
I'll make the motion.
Any second? Second. Any comment? Changes? Roll call?
Perez.
Yes.
Siegel. Miliani.
Yes.
Colari.
Yes.
Toriello.
Yes. And a motion to pay bills and claims?
Make the motion.
Second.
Any comment? Roll call?
Perez.
Yes.
Siegel.
Yes.
Miliani.
Yes.
Colari.
Yes.
Toriello.
Yes. And now, Lorrain,
Thank
so
you,
it's
Mr.
all
Mayor.
you.
All
agenda, hopefully everyone has a copy of the resolution 2012-56. It is to apply for a dedication by rider for a trust that has been in use for a couple of years here in Greenwich at least. One of the things that turned up when we applied to the state for approval to adopt the budget this evening was that this dedicated reserve, dedicated trust, as well as a few others, had never actually been approved by the state. So this was very quick to prepare, so it's on your agenda tonight, and it's to seek the approval of the Division of Local Government Services, who are creating a legal reserve dedicated by rider for the snow and winter preparedness, for lack of a better term.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
address that now?
I'll
Okay.
make that motion.
Please.
I'll second it. Any comment? Roll call?
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Laurie?
Yes.
Coriolo?
Yes. And Brent, just to, Lorraine adequately described what it was that.
This was resolution 2012-56, right?
Right.
That's what you just
Yeah,
voted to
yeah,
approve?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have one question. How did the local government services not see this on prior submissions?
Every third year, you have to have the state approve your budget. This wouldn't have been our year. We would have been eligible for self-review, and I could have just certified the budget, and we could have just gone through and adopted it. But since we had a line item of special revenue that
Yes.
escrow $93,000 or so, we had to apply to the state for approval to insert that special line item of revenue. And because of that, they took a whole review of the budget to give us approval for that, which we did just receive this afternoon through email written.
Okay.
That we're good to go.
Great. Okay, so I guess with that, can I have a motion for resolution, let me just see, 55, for reimbursement of overpayment of taxes for block 4201, lot 12, in the amount of $1,298.72.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Any comment? Roll call?
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Laurie?
Yes.
Coriolo?
Yes. And now a motion for resolution 2012-57 for the reimbursement of overpayment of taxes for block 23.08, lot 31, in the amount of $73.18.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Comment? Roll call?
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Laurie?
Yes.
Coriolo?
Yes. And I also want to add, there's been an addition, I don't know, if everybody should have been provided in front of you, Resolution 2012-60, which is a renewal of liquor licenses. And I don't know, should I name the businesses when you do that? Or is it sufficient notice to say for renewal of liquor licenses for the period of July 1st, 2012 through June 30th, 2013? I'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is a renewal for the liquor license of the Rock Nest Monster Corp., trading as Bourbon Street Liquors, for the Rock Corporation of Tewksbury, for retail distribution, and then for plenary consumption, Apple Food Service of Phillipsburg, Inc., Warrenside Tavern, Ailing LLC, trading as Paisanos, and Bondi Bar, and then a club license for Mesky Bishop Post 456 American Legion.
Motion.
Second.
Any comment? Roll call?
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Laurie?
Yes.
Coriolo?
Yes. Tonight, there's one item that is on the executive session that we will be discussing as a committee regarding the red light enforcement. There's been a lot of coverage both locally and now statewide regarding the entirety of the program. And, we will be, again, addressing this topic in executive session collectively. I just want to state briefly, because I have received numerous inquiries regarding this issue, and I want to make it clear that what I'm about to say, I'm speaking for myself. I have not spoken with any other committee members, so they may agree or disagree with what I'm about to say. But personally, I am outraged at Cohasset Township's clear violation of the law, really in two respects. First and foremost, and this has been an ongoing issue for some time, at least since January, I'm outraged because there was a violation of the law in its installation, and at least with respect to the intersection of 22 and 122, because the statute requires that the intersection reside within a single municipality, and that was not done in this instance. And secondarily, we now know that there was a second violation of the law, because prior to turning those cameras on, Cohasset was required to undertake a traffic study prior to its turning on, and they failed in that respect as well. And I want to make it clear to my outrage and discomfort in those two respects. And we will be discussing, more particularly in executive session. And I, only because I threw this up and it's not on the agenda, I would, if anybody else wanted to make a comment, I'd turn it over to you. If you want to, I'm not putting anybody on the spot, but I just shared just in response to, to some recent inquiry, and I wanted to just
The only
say
thing,
that.
the only thing I would say is I just read the article that said that, other than, I guess, a few municipalities that have these cameras, many of them have not gone through, I think it was called a calibration process in order to make it, that it's legal. So, I guess there's several across the state that are in the same violation, so.
Now turning back to the agenda items, we are going to have a motion to open up for public comment period regarding the 2012 municipal budget. And before we do that, I just want to again thank Lorraine for all of your hard work, and Elaine for your stewardship and oversight in this year's budget, and to getting us to closing a gap of in excess of $550,000, balancing the budget, and doing so without increasing taxes, while we've addressed many of the difficulties that were left to us due to the lack of oversight in the last several years. And Lorraine, we really thank you for all of your hard work. I do want to say that, so that the residents at least understand my commitment. I think first and foremost, we had to deal this year with a lot of pressing items that were identified by our auditor, and I want to thank him as well for his fresh set of eyes in really identifying what he had described as the prior abject neglect. And I want the residents to be assured that we have been working and we continue to work diligently to address those concerns and to provide a level of fiscal oversight that the township residents deserve. In that regard, I think first and foremost, we had to deal with these pressing issues. We had to become financially whole, which this budget allows in terms of closing that gap without a tax increase. But I don't want the residents to think that our work is done here. To the contrary, I believe it's just beginning. I think that moving forward, I believe the township will have to start considering longer-term plans. This year was addressing the immediate, but I think longer-term plans, we should start as a committee working together to identify capital and operational, long-term capital projects, identifying exactly what it is that we need, what it's going to cost, how we're going to pay for that, and to start thinking beyond the immediate. It's kind of hard to do so when you're faced, as in this here, we don't even have a general ledger. I mean, you have to kind of crawl, then you walk, then you jog, then you run. But, moving forward, I think that, I don't want anybody to think that just because, we're putting forth a proposed balanced budget and closing the gap, that our work is done. To the contrary, it is just beginning, and we have our work cut out for us to identify those more longer-term plans. So with that, is there a motion to open up for public comment?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to be heard on the budget, please step forward. Yes. You want to do that first? Why don't we do that? I think that's better. You have enough copies? Let's do that so that that makes more sense.
So shall we make a motion to close? public
Yeah, let's do
comment?
that. Let's do that.
Right, because you're going to do it again.
We'll do it again.
Right.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm just following the agenda here, but it does make sense.
Yeah. Does anybody look up?
Something different?
Is it different? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the budget. This is the budget presentation.
Oh, wow.
I decided anything over
Okay.
even he doesn't have.
I wanted to do it on overhead.
That's why I took mine off. I came with it time, and he's saying.
We all have to follow Brent's
Yes.
lead, because I don't know, I might
Yes.
have to rebel from that.
Why?
That's Brent.
Just
I
Just put your
apologize
time in
for
the
not
car.
having PowerPoint.
Oh, this is doing
My
this.
daughter couldn't teach me fast enough, so this is what we have. I'll just go through page by page, if that's okay with everyone. The very first page shows you where your taxes went in 2011. It gives you the percentages as to the total taxes that Greenwich Township collected and where we actually pay them out to. The state of New Jersey is a little unique in that the township collects taxes for every entity. We collect the school taxes, we collect the county taxes, and county open space, any library or local library taxes that there would be. So you can see the bulk of your taxes, 48, almost 49% goes to the school, and when you include county and county open space, it's a little over 30% go to the county. On the second page, there's a typo. It's estimating where our taxes will go in 2012, not again in 2011. So even though our tax rate hasn't been struck for 2012, every municipality has to have their budget adopted and into the county so the county can strike the rate. So our rate for 2012 hasn't been struck yet by the county, but we have an estimate that it'll drop, actually decrease your local taxes by 0.033 cents. So it's not a huge decrease, but it is in fact a decrease. The individual tax calculation, the amount that the individual homeowner pays for property taxes, is a pretty simple calculation. It's whatever the overall tax rate is times your assessed valuation. The calculation of the actual rate itself is a little bit more complex than that. It takes into consideration the value of every single property, whether it's increased or decreased, if there's a huge amount of, what is that called, people? About the taxes? Yeah, tax appeals, if there's a huge amount of tax appeals, all of that is taken into consideration before the final rate is actually struck. In 2011, 1 cent of your taxes equaled a little over $60,000 to the township that would make available for spending. In 2012, it was a little over $59,000, between $59,000 and $60,000. On the third page, there's a really pretty color pie chart, and that tells you how the current fund budget, your general taxation, how that is split up between salaries and wages, other expenses, which are your operational departmental budgets, statutory expenditures, which include your pensions for PERS and PFRS, and your employment taxes, debt payments, deferred charges, which are, for this particular year, it includes the emergency appropriation from 2011, and the 24,000 is, I believe, for codification. It also has the reserve for uncollected taxes. That's a non-spending appropriation. It's like an allowance for doubtful accounts. We have to raise, in this year, $490,000 more than what we actually need to account for those people that pay late or don't pay their taxes at all. There's also a little less than 1% that we pay out towards grants. On the fourth page, that gives you a description by each department that has a paid employee, what the salaries actually are. So you can see the number one item there, mayor and committee, is 1.62 of the salaries and wages that Greenwich Township residents pay go towards your elected officials. Police is 62%, so you can see where the bulk of the salaries and wages is, and each department is noted there. There are two asterisks there, both for the finance office and police. The finance office is a little skewed because it does not include the CFO shared service for myself. That's not a salary and wage, it's an operational expense because it's not paid out as a salary and wage. So that's not actually included in the salary and wages for your finance. And also for police, there is a $30,000 grant, which is subtracted from their salaries and wages. On the next page is a detail of the interdepartmental operational budgets. It's just like the salaries and wages were set up. It shows you each department and what their overall percentage of the OE expenditures are. I don't want to belabor that too much. You can go back and review it at your leisure. Page 6 is the entire departmental budget. It's the salaries and wages plus the operational expenses. So you can see finance is 2% of the entire tax that you pay out. 2% goes just to support the operation of your finance office. 24% is for police. 12% is for the reserve for uncollected taxes. So that's a huge, huge percentage of the taxes that we raise, and that could be diminished greatly if everyone would either pay their taxes on time or just make sure they had them paid by the end of the year. Page 7 is where it really gets exciting, where you get to see our revenues. Our total revenues, obviously they equal our total expenditures, and it's a little over $4.1 million. You can see that the bulk of our revenues comes from current year taxes. So we rely very heavily on the taxpayer to subsidize our municipal budget. It's 64% of all of the money that we raise comes in from the taxpayers. We also rely heavily on surplus, delinquent taxes, and all of the revenues are detailed on the pages that follow. Starting on page 8, just a brief look at property taxes over the last couple of years, how it has increased, decreased, changed, and been modified. One special note is that because of our, I'll call it a tax base, because of the assessed valuation of all the properties in Greenwich, because that's decreasing, that's giving us less money to work with. It's making a penny of taxes equal less money. So even if we were to increase 2 cents this year, we get $100,000, whereas if we were to increase 2 cents a couple of years ago, maybe we would have gotten $120,000. So we're having to work with less monies available and still provide the same great services and efficiency in everything that we do. On page 9, there's just a little chart on surplus and how it's been used in the past couple of years. You can see that our reliance on surplus has decreased from 2009. We're also not regenerating as much surplus as we had in the past. So in the future, we'll try and be even more conservative with that so that we can prolong the amount of surplus that we have, making the savings that the taxpayers have helped raise last longer and help offset future budgets as well as our current budget. Page 10 is actually my favorite. A little brief look at our state aid. The state of New Jersey did something many years ago that was a really exciting concept for them. They decided that energy receipts, they decided that energy receipts was just too burdensome for the local governments to collect. We also get an annual franchise fee from the cable company. So if the cable company makes X amount of dollars, they make I'll call it a contribution to the municipal government of a certain percentage of that. That used to be the same for electrical utilities as well. But the state again decided that was too burdensome for the local municipalities, so they took over the collection of that and then paid it back to us. And then over a several years period, that became state aid. Yeah, that there was a regular state aid, which is Comptra. I don't even remember what that stands for. But then they called energy receipts. Oh, consolidate, okay.
Consolidated municipal.
Jump in anytime you want. The energy receipts, even though they call it state aid, it's really not. It's a local revenue that they took over and pay back to us to make it look like we're still receiving state aid. So,
They stopped giving it all back.
oh yeah, and then they reduce that too. They just keep taking more and more of a percentage of the energy receipts. So, you can see in 2009, we received almost $390,000 from energy receipts. And I'm pretty sure that people aren't using that much less electricity, and we're down to $315,000. Also, that really whopping $6,800 of state aid that we received in 2009 is now gone. So Greenwich really doesn't receive any state aid. So anytime you want to write to your senators or governor and say, hey, look us up in Greenwich, we'd be happy to, I'll put the postage on myself for you. Miscellaneous revenue that we create, there's really not a ton. We are out there looking for new revenue flows, revenue sources without burdening the taxpayers. You can see in 2009 to 2012, there's quite a variance. Interest income is a really noteworthy one. We had anticipated $80,000 of interest revenue from our accounts that we have on deposit of $80,000. Well, now we're down to $3,000 because interest rates are really great. Really nice when you want to refinance your mortgage, not so great when you have a couple $1 million getting $3 a month in interest. Tax interest is the interest on delinquent accounts and interest on delinquent tax payments. That has doubled since 2009. Less money, people are paying later, paying more in interest. Court fines, they're a little variable, and licenses are pretty static. So we are looking for new streams of revenue, again, that won't burden the taxpayers any more than we are now. The Township of Greenwich has a really great sewer utility, and on page 12, it's a really detailed description of your sewer utility budget. There's really not much going on there. You have salaries and wages, operational expenses, and capital appropriation. So $524,000, which is 88% of the budget, is for operational expenses. That's detailed a little bit better on page 13. The primary expense for the sewer utility is sewage treatment. There's a contractual obligation between Greenwich and another town where they take our sewage, treat it, and make it great. We have other items in there as well, professional fees.
Never heard sewer
No.
referred to quite accurately.
Neither have I.
Is that in our next sewer?
We have great sewer.
You know what they do with it?
Surprise Joe
Release it to
Fryer.
water.
Well, that's exactly what they do.
All right.
They make it less not great.
Yes.
That's probably better.
They improve it dramatically and release it to the wild. Okay, so there's professional fees for engineering and legal. There's electricity usage for the pumps to get that sewage to the great place. And a little bit of postage, some office supplies, a little bit of advertising, which is really for the tax sale. But you can see 76% of the overall OE budget is just for sewage treatment. Just that contractual obligation to pay someone to take our stuff. For the revenues, it's another really detailed chart here. We have some surplus, and we have sewer user fees. The sewer user fees in next year's budget will be broken out between commercial and residential. This year, it's just all lumped in together. So we anticipate that we will raise $460,000 in user fees to pay for the sewer utility. On page 15, there is a brief historical study of the three revenues really that we have in the sewer system. The sewer user fees is not very variable. It did dip in 2011. I have a feeling that that's from a posted revenue, but I'm not 100% sure on that. The unanticipated revenue is relatively steady. It hasn't changed dramatically. And the surplus, it's up a little bit this year in usage to compensate for not receiving as much in user fees from last year. And that was all I could find to talk about with our great municipal budget.
Thank you very much.
PowerPoint, I promise.
And I think what we'll do is we'll get this up on the webpage for everybody to look at. And, this is part of the transparency that, we need to be providing. And it's really an excellent presentation. I think simplified to so it's easily understood with the chart, so really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, that's applause for numbers, that's impressive.
Go budget.
So, yeah. Now,
Oh, yeah, so our next budget meeting will be at the end of August for 2013, so.
good stuff, exactly, there you go. So with that, at the conclusion presentation, can I have a motion to open up for public comment?
We call it a public hearing.
Public hearing. Public hearing.
Make that motion.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone wishing to be heard on the 2012 municipal budget, please step forward.
Charles Slack, 103 Bradford Lane. I've been mentioning for a long time in regard to the size of our police department. It seems like we keep increasing that budget instead of decreasing it. I've said in the past, I'll say it again, there are many municipalities in New Jersey the size of Greenwich that do not have a police department. We're spending over $1 million. It used to be like $1.25 million, something. I didn't add everything up here. I don't have time. I don't know what it is now. But I see, I don't know if it's just because of the way the numbers are, but there's like, for 2011, $859,787, and for 12, it's going to be $932. That's like $70,000 more. Now, was that somewhere else?
That's in their
Pardon?
agreement.
That's in their
In
agreement?
their contract.
The contract.
Well, that's, okay, wonderful. I wish I had a contract like that.
Me too.
I wish I had one in my house where my taxes would decrease more. We should really pay attention to that when someone leaves. I've said that before. We had opportunities before in the past. A sergeant left, a patrolman left, they retired, they go on to another job and still get paid by us, and then we rehire and replace. Take a look at that kind of stuff. I don't understand why we don't. We don't need government employees, government, like Obama wants to. You mentioned something about a $30,000 grant. Is that in this budget? Is that
It's accounted for in the budget, yes,
for the 12?
for 2012, right.
So that would be $30,000 more.
That's correct. The salaries that show of $932,000 without the grant would have been $962,000.
Come on, we gotta do something about it. Because what's gonna happen next year? Where are we gonna get the $30,000 from?
It's going to be even more too, because each year there's contractual
Yeah, I know
increases
that.
and steps and.
But that's the problem with a grant. You get it one-time shot. And yet municipalities always get suckered into that. And we're not getting it for free, because that $30,000 is still our tax money. Even though it's state tax money, it's still our tax money. Doesn't matter where the hell it comes from. That's what you gotta keep in mind when you have a budget like this. So when someone leaves or whatever, I'm not saying to fire the whole police department, but we should look at where the hell we're spending the money. And when somebody leaves and we have opportunities to reduce it, let's reduce it already. It's not let have it keep going up. Everybody throws up their hands like it has to go up because it's a police department. No. Some municipalities don't have any. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no hands, is there a motion to close public hearing?
I'll make the motion. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Let me see. This is two. I know, I want to get it in front of me, so I know the number. Is it 59?
Timmy did a great job on the information.
Okay, now, can I have a motion to adopt the 2012 Resolution 2012-50?
I have a public comment first
Public comment.
on the 2012 59 amendment. We want to public comment on that resolution first.
Oh.
And then the
I
auditor
see.
can explain that.
I see, I forgot about the amendment, I see.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so a motion to open up for public comment.
Maybe you want to hear what the auditor has to say about the amendment first.
Okay. You want to explain?
Yes, Mayor. Based upon the state's review and then my review with your CFO of the state's comments, we worked through the items that they presented. Several of them were really not applicable. We got the state to agree to those. Several of them merely required additional information to be filed. Your CFO and your clerk took care of the filing, so they were all addressed, and we were left with two items. One was there are two small over expenditures from 2011 that showed up on the annual financial statement. A $27 over expenditure of a capital project and a $2,900 over expenditure of an old grant program. Those have to be raised in the budget, and this amendment puts those in. The second thing is that when Lorraine put the budget together, she was working off of a projected fund balance that ended up being higher than, that was higher than what the true balance amounted to. I met with Lorraine. Lorraine wrote the check from the capital fund over to the current account to clear that problem we had back at the annual financial statement time. I then contacted the division. Lorraine sent down proof that the interfund had been cleared, and the division said, okay, we'll let you use some of that money that you just sent over instead of your surplus. So the resolution, the amendment resolution reduces the surplus anticipated by from $475,000 to $444,000, and it adds an item for $33,950.85, which is the difference in the surplus plus the two items of expenditure we had to add for the interfund loan. Net effect of this, no change in the tax rate, no change to any line item of appropriation other than the addition of those two, and no change to any other revenues. The state has a statute that has 3 trigger points requiring a additional public hearing on the budget if your amendments pierce those thresholds. It's 10% on a transfer between appropriation line items, 5% addition to the amount to be raised by taxes, or an increase in the total budget of 1% through the inclusion of new line items. You did not pierce any of those thresholds. We sent the proposed resolution, amending resolution, down to the state for pre-approval, and they approved your proposed amendment, and based upon your proposed amendment, they also authorized you to adopt your budget tonight, conditioned upon first adopting this proposed amendment.
I just have one other thing to add, those 3 points are in the statute. I think, though, that's talking to an additional public notice.
Yes.
And so in abundance of caution, we may want to have a public hearing on the amendment at this point in time.
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay.
He has the.
Okay, all right.
All right, as opposed to public comment, so.
No, as opposed to just adopting it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but
listed
I-
on his thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
so,
All right.
so,
You referred to a hearing. I just
right.
want to be clear, the public has a right to hear on the amendment.
Okay, all right. Anything else you wanted to add?
Unless there are any questions.
Okay, so I guess in light of that now, can I have a motion to open up for a public hearing with respect to the resolution to amend?
With respect to the proposed amendment.
Yeah,
2012-15, I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to be heard on the amendment? Seeing no hands, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Lee, motion second. Second, Dan.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, now
Now we need to adopt that resolution.
I can ask for a motion to approve resolution 2012-59
I'll make a motion.
Which is adopting the 2012 budget as amended.
as amended.
No.
You need a roll call vote on the
No.
amendment.
First, we have to, no, it's not.
Oh, I
adopting
see.
the
So
2012 budget.
now we're gonna
We
do
have to adopt
just
this resolution.
Right.
a
Then
resolution
we have
to
have a
adopt,
motion to adopt the budget.
to adopt resolution
Mhm.
2012-59 to
Right.
amend the 2012
Right,
budget.
that's right, right,
So
that's
this
right.
is just the amendment.
Okay.
So Elaine made the motion,
I'll second it.
and Mayor seconded.
Any comment?
Okay, roll.
Roll call.
Perez.
Yes.
Siegel. Miliani.
Yes.
Valari.
Yes.
Toriello.
Yes.
Okay, now we get up to,
Now, can I have a motion to adopt the 2012 municipal budget?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Any comment? Roll call. Oh, I'm sorry.
First, I'd like to commend everyone that worked on this. Did a great job, especially you, Lorraine, and our auditor. Very nice work by the committee. That being said, though, and I know this doesn't make me popular with my feelings with this, but my feeling is that I believe that we should at least have a minimum of 1 cent to a maximum of a 2 cent increase in taxes to protect us for the coming year. I believe that next year, we had money this year that was found by the finance department that won't be there next year. And that's my concern, that we may not be able to make up some of this money that was found this year by the good work of our finance department. And we may not have this money next year. So in order to protect us from a larger, and I hope that I'm wrong, I truly hope that I'm wrong in what I'm saying, that there's a tax increase next year. And I'd be very happy to sit up here next year and say I was wrong. But in the event that I'm not, I just still feel that we should have put some type of safeguard in there to protect us from a huge bump next year or something to that effect. That's it.
I have a couple comments too, and I went into great detail when we introduced the budget. The major concern I have is the one-time revenue of the $93,000 that we won't have next year, as well as I mentioned before, our net tax valuations are down by $2 million, yet we are reducing our reserve for uncollected taxes by $105,000. So I'm very concerned that we are setting ourselves up for a huge increase next year unless we're able to increase our revenue significantly. Very, very concerned. And I went into much detail, a lot of detail at the introduction of the budget. I won't go into that detail tonight, but very concerned.
Just one last thing. I had a conversation this afternoon with Bob, very nice conversation, we discussed some ideas that he had for the future, which I think would be a big help to this township with some of the ideas that he had as far as talking about the capital improvements and working out instead of a 1-year budget plan, maybe a 2 to 3 year budget plan. And I think that would be something that would behoove the township if we could discuss that at some point with him and bring that up for the future.
I'll be looking forward to your auditor's report.
We've got staff on site, and we're plowing forward.
Excellent.
Good, good. And again, as I indicated earlier, we do need to have a longer-term plan. Quite frankly, it has not been raised in the recent past. But the first order of business is to get out of the large hole that was left to this committee. Again, over $550,000 budget gap. You have to close that gap before you can even talk about long-term planning, in my opinion. We're now at a point where we have a balanced budget. We were fortunately able to do that without raising taxes, due in part to finding the revenue that had been available to us for years, but just had been overlooked due to really not a watchful eye. But it was found this year. Fortunately, it was found because it was the taxpayers' money, and we were able to give that back to them without having an increase like we did last year when you didn't need to as much because there was actually money there. And I think that the point is you have to start by becoming fiscally responsible by looking at what you have before you run out and you increase taxes like was done in the past. And we did that this year. We also did it through sacrifice by asking, by having a cut in all departments. So it's not just about finding a one-time revenue. It was about actually reducing spending. point in fact, we are spending less in the 2012 budget in departments than we spent in 2011. We are reducing the size of government, including police. The overtime line item in this budget is represents a 25% reduction over last year. So there are cuts across the board, with the exception of the volunteer, the fire department, and the emergency rescue. I guess in actual dollars and percentages, it's almost accurate to say it's relatively the same. But I do think a longer term plan, is needed, and we should start right away in terms of planning on both in terms of capital improvements and even just general expenditures. So I do welcome that discussion, and hopefully we can start phase 2 of a more fiscally responsible Greenwich Township. So.
And I agree that we need to look beyond 1 year, but I do not agree that we have a balanced budget for this year. We might show it on paper that we have a balanced budget. I don't agree that it's a balanced budget.
And that's based upon what?
That's based upon a lot of homework that I've done, and all the details I provided at the introduction of the budget, where we have shifted things time and time again. The uncollected reserve for taxes, the one-time revenue, even though we said we were shifting monies for capital reserve from monies that weren't used, that was a shift. That wasn't adding money to the capital reserve to help with the road repair and things like that. And then again, I think the major concern and issue that we're going to face is a $2 million reduction in net tax valuations. That's huge. And I got that from our tax assessor. That's not made up, that's real dollars.
Well, $2 million in assessment has to be put into perspective. It's not $2 million in cash. $2 million of assessment is a very, I'm not going to say small, but it's your total assessed value is $600 million. So $2 million is 2 over 600 is the percentage. So that's not to say the loss of $2 million of rateables isn't going to impact the taxes, because everybody else is going to have to make up for that portion that you lost. But it's not $2 million cash. It's not like you have a $4 million tax levy and it's going to have to go to $6 million. It's 1/300th of your tax, 1/3 of 1% of your rateable base. So it's not good, but compared to some of my other clients that have lost 15% of their rateable base in the last 3 years, Greenwich is doing okay. Right? These are not easy times. We'd all like the rateable base to be growing. So while $2 million is a significant amount of money, it's not, again, you have to remember, you're talking rateables, not cash.
Right.
Bob, I have a question for you though. But so with that, understanding that it's not $2 million, but it's a subset of $2 million, in reducing the reserve for uncollected, would you recommend reducing the reserve for uncollected taxes when we are going to have a reduction in our valuations?
Again, what a reduction in the assessed value will do is it will lower the value of a penny's worth of taxes. So if you were at $600 million rateables, that generates 1 penny of taxes raises $60,000. If you go down to $598 million of rateables, 1 penny of taxes generates $59,800. So you lose $200 off of the value of a tax point. So if you have a tax rate of $1, you lose 100 times 200. $20,000 is the net effect on the tax loss.
Would you recommend reducing the reserve in this situation as auditor?
See, this is a policy decision, right? And I mentioned that in my response to you. you're well over the statutory minimum reserve for uncollected taxes. You are probably going to generate, if your collection rate holds true, you're going to generate probably between $250,000 and $300,000 worth of surplus, regenerate, with the reserve level where it is, right? If you raised your reserve for uncollected taxes by another $100,000, you would raise taxes by $100,000, and you would regenerate another $100,000 worth of surplus. So the question is, do you want to raise taxes to raise the reserve for uncollected taxes? Again, your tax collection rate was over 98%. You could budget up to, I think it's 98.05%, which would artificially lower your tax levy if you did that, right?
The tax collection rate was high. That's pretty high rate, right?
And it has been consistently high, and that's the thing. The time that I would suggest you look at raising the reserve for uncollected taxes would be at a time where you see deterioration in your collection rate.
So I have a question for Lorraine then. Have the delinquent notices gone out on taxes yet? They didn't? Okay. Do we know how much that went out? You know what the dollar amount is?
No.
The other thing that I would point out is that the calculated tax collection rate for 2011 doesn't include $38,000 worth of unposted cash receipts in the month of the latter part of November and December. Looking at those amounts, Lorraine and I have been talking, we are going to go through the tax stubs, and we're also going to go through the responses to the delinquent notices, because we suspect that the majority of that $38,000, which would be a half of 1 cent, is probably tax collection, which is going to change the financial statements if it's true, increase your fund balance, and lower your delinquent taxes. Also raise your collection rate. So there's the possibility of upward improvement in your collection rate and your fund balance for the year when we identify what happened with that $38,000. So, all things considered, really the policy decision comes down to, do you tax more to generate more surplus at this point, or if you're going to raise your reserve for uncollected taxes, are you doing it in response to a deteriorating collection rate? I mean, that would be what I would advise you to consider making policy based on. Right? I don't make policy.
Understood. If there's no other comments, roll call.
Perez,
No.
Siegel,
No.
Miliani,
Yes.
Valari,
Yes.
Cordero.
Yes. With that, next item on the agenda is Deputy Mayor.
Resolution to award contract to Aqua Wastewater Management. Mike, do you have this in your report as well? For the operation and maintenance of the township sewer
No.
wastewater management collection?
No,
And
no,
award
I-
award the bid to Aqua?
Yes, I'd be happy to give a summary along with Brent real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Before we continue, I'm just looking, Bob, if we could probably excuse you at this point, if we're done with budget talk, so, we had you, you were here available for public hearing and comment, so I just want to thank you for really all your hard work, really.
You're not going to have to let me out, offer to let me out twice, Mayor.
Bob, maybe you can have a comment with the newspaper outside. It just worked out.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
I'm good.
Stay cool.
Try.
Yeah.
And then Lorraine, I know you have a situation too, probably after Elaine's comments, is there anything in executive session that we need Lorraine for? Could we excuse her after we discuss sewer?
There'd be just something that I could give to her in email with regards to a contract. Looks like you're
All right,
going to be
so,
ending.
because I know this way when we're finished, this might, and we might need you for this, and then after that, we could probably excuse you as well.
So we're going with the resolution to award the bid contract to Aqua Wastewater Management. It's a resolution 2012 58 for the collection system. Can I have a motion? I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. Comment? Roll call?
Perez,
Wait, I have a question.
Oh,
Sorry. What exactly is this for? Is this just for them to collect the water? We're not talking about the.
Wastewater
That's it?
management, they actually are our provider. Mike, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
We have had a contract, and it has been with Aqua in the past, but their contract ran out, or was running out, and it had to go out to bid again.
We did it in February, or March.
Well, no, yeah, we put out the bid in March, and then opened it up in May, and now it's ready to take action. Okay. Basically, Dan, it's pretty simple. It's a Greenwich Township wastewater, i.e. sewer, operation and maintenance contract for our sewer collection system, both the gravity system, which is the primary component of the system, and the pump station, which does require weekly, not daily, but multiple visits per week, chemical treatment. There's a lot of equipment there, it requires maintenance. And of course, the force main, it takes our sewer from the pump station across from Napa all the way down to the Phillipsburg treatment plant. So it's to hire someone to perform that service. That's what it is.
Where they make it
He's
great.
so glad he asked that question.
I thought it had to do with something else, but no.
Oh.
I just wanted to be
Don't you
certain
feel
about it.
like you really understand it better now?
I feel like I'm walking in a substation.
I should take you on a tour of the pump station. It's actually pretty interesting. No, it's actually pretty interesting. It'll take a couple minutes.
You got all them instruments on. I love it.
Get them up, the muffin monster, we can turn it on and off, there's switches all over the place. It's really
Just send them
good
pictures.
stuff. Okay.
any other questions? Roll call?
Perez.
Yes.
Siegel.
Yes.
Laurie.
Yeah.
Miliani.
Yes.
Riello.
Yes.
Okay, Kim, I'm not sure, did you advertise for this yet, or do we have to authorize you to advertise? Or is there someone we're going to have temporarily?
I have nothing. I spoke with the mayor,
Yeah.
and we are working on the advertisement and.
Okay. So the
accepting-
advertisement has not been put in the news?
No, it's planned for this weekend.
Okay.
And you're gonna do the league as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, do we know, this is the first time I'm hearing, when I read it in the agenda that she resigned, that she hasn't been with us that long. Do we know why she resigned?
She's personal issues.
Personal?
Mhm. It's personal issues.
I think we kind of, at the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, when she joined us, she actually indicated that she was going to test it out. She didn't know if it might be more than she could handle.
Exactly.
And if you recall, we had advertised the position several times and we hadn't gotten any response. So we were, quite honestly, if I can say this, we were happy to have a warm body at that point in time.
Well, a warm certified body.
Certified body,
There's a
yes,
certification
yes,
that's
let's be
gotta go
clear
along
about
with
that.
this.
So, yeah, because that is part of the problem, that it limits the pool from where we can draw from. So, and as it turned out, her concerns were, I guess, validated, so.
So, I'm going to accept, we need to accept her resignation effective July 16th.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that the planning board does not have any meetings right now for July and August. I don't know what the Board of Adjustment has in play. I do know that the person that we will be hiring needs to have certifications and needs to have some experience working with planning boards and Board of Adjustment. It's just not a job where somebody can come in and apply.
Well, word is out, because I've had some.
Yeah,
Where
and
does
I
that
know,
I don't know.
there is the possibility, and this is something that I think we would have to advertise for, and we are going to advertise. But that notwithstanding, I do think there are
It's not an easy.
feelers out there to see if there's anybody that
Yeah. Yeah,
might
John,
be able
yeah.
to.
Well,
do
the
this.
ad indicates experience in municipal land use.
Right.
Certification.
Right. So with that, I guess I need to call for a motion to accept the resignation of Linda Jackowitz with regrets.
I will second that with regrets.
Well,
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Joe-
I'll make, any comment? Roll call.
Perez?
Yes.
Siegel?
Yes.
Lorick?
Yes.
Miliani?
Yes.
Freeholder?
Yes. That's it. For you, Elaine?
Yeah,
Okay.
but, Lorraine has to, put it in your notes, Lorraine, that this employee is not working as of July 16th, so that we can stop payment, stop employee payments. We don't want another, what happened in January.
Right. Okay. Dan?
Well, you go and see the air conditioning's working finally, so.
Thank God.
Yeah, nice job done by Lou Fasano, the company that we used. We did save a couple of dollars with him by using him instead of the current company that we used. Also, he also walked around, did some little things for us, just walked around outside, found some things that were wrong that need to be corrected. Yeah, they did on his own.
Really bad.
Yeah, they did on his own, didn't charge us,
Outside?
Yeah.
Let's just say about the thing outside.
Yeah, outside,
That was real bad.
there's a fan that's out there, and as we were standing there, we both looked at it, and we saw that, the three of us saw it, that the fan was cracked. And had that fan was in rotation and split, with possibly someone standing near there, they could have went through, somebody could have been killed.
And the boxes.
The boxes, we found that the boxes were not, the shut-off switches were not locked. There was no lockout tag on it,
So
so.
the kid would have lifted up the lid and touched.
Yeah, so there was a couple of things that we found, that he corrected for us. Anyway, so, and the work was done, what, within a week, wasn't it, Kim?
Yes.
We had everything.
He was ready to go for the primary election and everything.
Yeah, so, it was very nice work done by him.
And he's gonna put a quote in for next year for our contracting service for spring and fall.
Then, the second thing was, we had a re-inspection of our parks, the whole area, the building, the parks, everything. Again, I won't go into everything that was signaled out, but there was 4 things left over from last year which weren't